AI is going to change how we interact with computing. This is probably the biggest platform shift we've ever had, bigger shift than the internet brought us, happening on a way faster scale as well. Blockchain is effectively a counterforce because if that doesn't exist, it will be controlled by, one or two or three companies, and they effectively become gatekeeper on accessing what, we believe going to be a transformative for the humanity force. AI is on the front end, blockchain is on the back end. We have an opportunity to really bring this technology to everyone in the world. How do you really get, blockchain to be adopted? If you're already a centralized company, it's really hard for you to adopt this. The easiest way to do it is using kind of blockchain-based systems. The user wants to use what are the best applications in Web3. And same for developers. If I'm a developer, I want to tap into whatever best resources that are available. January is a Bitcoin season on Near because we have quite a few Bitcoin applications. You can write smart contracts on Near, but use assets of Bitcoin. When you're talking to your AI agent, right, and you want to buy something or participate in something, you're definitely not thinking about blockchains. We did not want users to know about Near itself kind of in their face. The way we connect to legacy system is a little bit different. Intent is effectively a new way of describing you want something done without prescribing how it should be done. It also can be that hey, execute some action in Deutsche Bank or borrow some capital from UBS. The age of effectively everything being automated is coming. My thesis is AI is effectively the last technology wave, because everything from there on will be built by AI itself. If you imagine the interface changed right now, you don't really need apps anymore. How do you actually coordinate and communicate with them? Open source is really important. It enables kind of everyone to run their own models. But the problem is open source doesn't have a good business model. This is where crypto and actually hardware comes in.
Welcome to the Onchain Culture Podcast, the podcast where we explore the transformative power of blockchain technology and its potential to reshape industries. In this episode, we had a very long-awaited conversation with Illia Polosukhin, the co-founder of Near Protocol, a blockchain that's breaking boundaries by merging crypto with AI. One of the hottest narratives in 2024 and probably 2025. We explored a lot, from Near's chain abstraction technology to its bold vision of becoming the blockchain for AI. Max, who should listen to this podcast episode and what can they learn from Illia?
This one is for everybody interested in the intersection of crypto and AI, because what you need to know about Illia is that he's considered to be one of the founding fathers of modern AI back then when he was working at Google. Now being at Near and really building out this blockchain for AI, we dove deep into what makes Near such a platform. So what are the core technological frameworks that Near is working on to enable the agentic age that we are facing in the future? We got his takes on AGI. We got his takes on current developments in the space of on-chain AI agents, so like AI 16Z or Virtuals, all the hot narratives that are currently going on. And obviously, we also wanted to better understand what's driving this whole change when it comes to the Near infrastructure. So we covered topics like chain abstraction and intent-based protocols. I really enjoyed this episode. I learned a ton from it. So this one is going to be fun.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's why I'm very glad to have Near as part of the Digital Asset Season, Europe's largest educational campaign on exploring the next drivers on institutional adoption and digital assets. From January to February, we have 8 leading industry partners who are hosting a 10-week immersive series together with us to explore the most crucial themes shaping the future of digital finance. Anything I forgot, or should we jump into the podcast episode?
Let's jump right into it.
Perfect. See you on the other side. Quick disclaimer before we get started. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell any financial instruments, securities, or cryptocurrencies. All information is provided without warranty, and the views expressed by the hosts or guests are strictly their own opinion, not financial or investment advice. Please note that we or our guests may hold positions in the financial instruments or cryptocurrencies discussed. And now, enjoy the podcast. Then let's start with this podcast episode. Illia, first of all, congrats on becoming a dad in September. And juggling crypto, AI, and diapers, I guess, seems like a lot. And with your unique perspective on these two transformative technologies, I'm curious, when your daughter turns 18 at some point, do you think the world will be a better place thanks to the advancements in crypto and AI? And Does this make you nervous that AI has such a sheer amount of power?
Well, it's definitely going to be a different place than it is right now. So making it a better place is our job. So I hope we succeed, but there's definitely, different routes. But I do think that kind of the way people will learn and interact with each other with computing will be changing, and like these changes will, they always seem small day to day, but then they're going to be pretty dramatic if you look at 18, 20 years difference. So yeah, I'm excited to make sure it is a better and kind of used for better ways, and also solve some of the bigger societal problems that I think we've accumulated.
And maybe the technology that you're working with is having a significant part in this future. So for over a year, I think NEAR has been positioning itself as the blockchain for AI, and we'll get into what it really means in a moment. But for anyone who might not be familiar with the NEAR protocol and its ecosystem, could you give us the big picture? Like, what is NEAR today and how does it stand out from the other layer 1 blockchains?
Yeah, so kind of the broader vision is AI is going to change not just kind of how we do things, like when we have a question, but truly change how we interact with computing, with kind of internet, with each other, with services and products. And this is probably the biggest platform shift we've ever had. Probably like an order of magnitude bigger shift than the internet brought us. And just like it's going to happening on a way faster scale as well. And this is a platform shift in which blockchain is effectively a counterforce, because if that doesn't exist, the kind of this power of AI will be concentrated in a few players, right? It will be controlled by one or two or three companies, and they effectively become gatekeeper on accessing what we believe going to be a transformative for the humanity force. And so I truly don't think that's a good idea. And at the same time, I think as we kind of rolling this out, there's a need for kind of this permissionless, trustless system to really connect individuals, AI agents, kind of services, like everything on internet in a new way. So platform shift, kind of, if we don't do anything, this platform shift will get controlled by, a few companies. And so we have the opportunity to really bring kind of this decentralization, permissionless, and trustlessness into the fold in this way. And so that's what NEAR is doing. And so the easiest framework is, AI is on the front end, blockchain is on the back end, right? So AI is how you're going to be interacting. Blockchain is how you're going to be effectively securing, doing transactions, doing interactions, kind of making sure that your data is private, making sure you are, getting a fair share. And so, there's a lot from there to unpack, but that's kind of the fundamental. And to achieve that, right, we're doing a number of things, right? So on blockchain side itself, how do we get more distribution, right? So kind of in 2023, we focused on acquiring effectively applications with a lot of users, because distribution going to be one of the important pieces, right? If the interface is changing, whoever controls the interface will be the one who actually can adopt this platform shift. So we have applications like Kaikai, Sweat, Hot, and a few others. They all together have over 40 million monthly active users on NEAR blockchain. They themselves have even more users who may be not using blockchain every day. And so that was kind of part of the strategy, to really have this massive distribution where we can kind of provide this technology to. Then you have stack of what we call chain abstraction, right? Yes, NEAR is kind of important kind of component of this puzzle, but it's not going to be everything for everyone. So how do we allow these users, and as well as users of other chains, to effectively use anything on blockchain? So Again, if you think of like from a user perspective, if I'm using my device and I have my AI assistant will not like, hey, do you need to like not going to be asking me like, hey, do you want to switch networks, or do we need to bridge some USDC from base to Arbitrum? Like that's not going to happen, right? So all of that needs to happen kind of under the hood. So that's what we introduced as chain abstraction. And finally, the AI side itself is, we call it kind of user-owned AI stack, and this is really making sure we have alternatives for what normally a centralized company has in their kind of internally to really coordinate open source research and development, and having these products and kind of AI capabilities available to people where it's not monetized by getting their attention or trying to extract more value from them, but actually monetized by token economics and ownership of the users who are using it. And so that's like kind of high level stack that we're building, that like it is a lot and people actually frequently say, oh, this like Near's doing too much, but kind of the way we see the world is we have an opportunity to really bring this technology to everyone in the world, kind of in like I think one of the challenges before, where everybody was like, hey, how do you really get blockchain to be adopted, right? And we had a lot of kind of speculation is a really good engine, but obviously speculation only attractive to like a subset of people in the world. And so the reality is then everybody's like, well, maybe the companies will adopt it. And the reality is like, if you're already a centralized company, it's really hard for you to adopt this. But now that we have this kind of platform shift with AI being the new interface, that's how I think we really kind of plug it in like across everyone who will be using AI in their day-to-day. Like AI assistant will be kind of effectively with you every day, all the time. And for this AI assistant, the easiest way to do it is using kind of blockchain-based systems, because like doesn't require any of the kind of traditional infrastructure that AIs are not common, but also the blockchains are built effectively for programmatic use, and we are doing a lot of things to make sure it's even easier to use for AIs.
Yeah, you touched upon quite a few different topics, and somehow painted also the evolution of Near. And obviously, we want to dive deeper into the topic of AI and user-owned AI. But first, maybe one step. The first step, I would like to further dive deeper into the chain abstraction theme, because from the outside it seems like, and you also said it just now, that in the first part of the Near history, you really build out all the scaling capabilities with sharding and so on, and really make sure that you have like the distribution side right, and partnered up with these consumer apps that you mentioned, and now it's interesting that whereas for the first part, it was putting much focus on energy onto increasing activity on Near, you're now transitioning somehow to become kind of a gateway for the broader Web3 ecosystem, and you've built out this chain abstraction framework. Would be super interesting to both better understand what chain abstraction really means from like a high level technical perspective, but also what's your strategic thinking, because most blockchain networks, they would think more in silos and not think about, okay, how can I make sure that my so-called competitors are getting more traction?
Yeah, so I'll start with strategic thinking, because it actually naturally follows the users. Like as you onboarding more users and you're giving them kind of access to blockchain, users want to explore more things, right? And so yes, we obviously want more applications to be built on Near, but at the same time there are really good applications built everywhere else, right? And this, like, to me, always a zero-sum game where you're like trying to steal applications from other blockchains didn't make sense, right? That seems really weird. It's like if VCs were trying to steal companies from each other, which happens, but like instead, why don't you partner up? And so so the kind of the high level was like, okay, well, if you look from a user perspective, user wants to use, what are the best applications in Web3 broadly, not just limited to one specific blockchain. And you want to give that ability like really easily. And same for developers. If I'm a developer, I want to tap into whatever best resources that are available, right? If there is some kind of smart contract on another chain that I want to use, or there's assets like Bitcoin that just sitting there and not utilized, I want to tap into that. So those are kind of really the motivation, and kind of technologically, what we've done, we effectively build what we call chain signatures. And this is an ability for near accounts or smart contracts to sign transactions. So traditionally, only off-chain actors, right, like your web wallet like MetaMask or maybe your script can sign a transaction, right? Nothing on-chain can sign transactions. And so what we made is ability for on-chain, effectively kind of contracts accounts to sign transactions for any chain, right? And so now, with this ability, you can, do a lot of things on Near itself, but also you can effectively hold assets on Bitcoin. You can send this kind of NFT trade on OpenSea. You can, do whatever, launch a meme coin on Solana through Pump.Fund smart contract, right? So you kind of have this ability to do kind of actions as if you were a wallet. And this opens up like a massive developer kind of space. So we actually have like January is a Bitcoin season on Near, we call it, because we have quite a few Bitcoin applications launching, everything from lending, restaking. We have prime brokerage. We have obviously Runes, kind of Launchpad, and a few other things. And so it effectively opens up programmability for Bitcoin, because you can write smart contracts on Near, but use assets of Bitcoin and kind of create runes and do all the transactions there. You can also do things like anything to anything DEX, right? So we've launched it's like through kind of another technology called Intense, an ability to swap Bitcoin for Dodge, or Ethereum for Solana. And it actually has on a up, like it's now limited to whatever 20-30K trades, but it actually has a better liquidity because it unifies liquidity across centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. So that's just an example, right? And again, like this is something that's not available anywhere else, because kind of when you take this approach of like looking from a higher level, like what do users want, right? You kind of offering this different kind of like you kind of elevating from just hey, this is like block space we're selling type thing, right? Which I think has been kind of the main like how people thought about blockchains, to really like, hey, how do we solve this kind of broader problem of onboarding users and making them transacting across the whole Web3. And again, like to me, like AI is like the ultimate chain abstraction, right? Because like you don't, like when you're talking to your AI agent, right, and you want to buy something or participate in something, you're definitely not thinking about blockchains, right? And that always was our kind of philosophy. Even when we were designing Near originally, we did not want users to know about Near itself kind of in their face, right? And so we kind of did a lot of design decisions to make it easy for people to really transact without, like, you didn't need to install a wallet separately, right? We had a web wallet. Your accounts were, human readable strings. You can have, for example, top level accounts. So Hot, which is a Telegram wallet, which actually is chain abstracted. It has, I think, like 6 or 7 networks supported. They actually had 1 billion transactions on Near last year. And so this is, they are probably biggest, like, they're definitely biggest chain abstracted wallet, and one of the biggest applications in general in Web3. And so, like, their account user names are .tg because they're a Telegram wallet. And so, like, you actually, unless you would dive in, you wouldn't know that it's like Near right away. But everything happens on Near, right? Every single transaction, even when you're swapping TON for Sol, right, which they support, you're sending a transaction on Near. So from that perspective, like, we actually are still offering a lot of block space to the applications. It just now these applications are able to do more things.
I actually know plenty of Bitcoin builders that are like demanding Near integrations or chain abstraction framework integrations for their protocols. So I definitely get like also where the demand is coming from, also from the Ethereum ecosystem. I think for last year, this whole like topic of fragmented liquidity and like the difficulties and interoperability between different rollups has been one of the like most pressing topics. Is this something that could also be like the end game for overall interoperability also between these different layer 2 ecosystems? Or how do you think about like different trade-offs also compared with shared sequencing and other frameworks to solve this?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of different frameworks that people are trying to solve. I do think all of them, one way or another, fit under chain abstraction, like broader sense. I think what we're doing is like starting from the user and going down. And like if, the users demand shared sequencing, right, you can do that. But, that's not something that users really want. Users want, for example, if I want to trade X for Y, if there is a liquidity on two sides, like somebody else should figure out how to do that. Like, I don't think user will want to like inspect a transaction that is going to, transact on both layer 2s and, how it's going to be shared sequencing and how do I need to pay priority fee for that. And like all of that is like so complicated versus what we offer is effectively you say, hey, I want to trade X for Y. There is solvers who are professional market makers, liquidity providers who can do all these routes, figure out what's the best way to do this, and then give you a quote and say, hey, this is going to cost you this, like I'm going to give you this much of Y. Because, on my side, it costs me this much to route all this, use a shared sequencer, not use a shared sequencer. Like that doesn't matter. Like all of that complexity moves back to like professionals and the users just see very simple kind of interface and interact with very simple things. And importantly, actually for security, they sign very simple messages. Like they sign a message that says, I'm going to, pay this much of Bitcoin and receive this much of ETH, or I'm going to pay this much of, USDC and receive this much of Turbo. Like, I do think this is actually something on Near we designed from the start. Like the transactions are readable, like they're in JSON, and you can kind of understand what is that you're signing. Because on Ethereum, that's impossible, right? And people get scammed all the time. So we kind of offering all of that service, and it works across all chains, all layer 2s, non-smart contract chains, Solana, Ton, etc. So to me, that's kind of the path where everything will be moving. And we, like the Prime Brokerage application actually has a very nice UX where you deposit Bitcoin and then you can open pump.fund directly in their application, or you can open whatever, Hyperliquid, and you can transact there. And what it does, it actually borrows automatically on your behalf with Bitcoin as collateral, swaps it to the token you need in that application and uses it there. All of that is invisible to you. You just click like, oh, I want to buy this meme coin, or I want to open this position. So like you can actually abstract a lot of these things now and make it such that you're using the app, but all of the mechanisms, multi-chain stuff, etc., happening under the hood. And again, happening by professionals who are running like very sophisticated setups, which no normal user will be able to match. Like I don't want to match that, for example. Like I don't want to run gazillion of nodes, etc., to like figure out what's the best path across all these things. So that's kind of how we're approaching it. And again, like there's a number of applications, as you said, that are building now in this paradigm that, again, they're solving the user problem, not kind of, another infrastructure provider, which again is useful, and it's useful for other professionals, but it's kind of like, I think we market a lot, like, oh, shared sequencer will solve all this problem, even though it's like, okay, well, how many people who actually use Ethereum understand what shared sequencing means, and also how it will actually work and impact their transactions.
So it's now a game of incentives to bring developers to adopt this framework, or how do you see this being rolled out across the Web3 ecosystem?
So right now, I mean, we've been kind of incubating and accelerating projects to build this. So we've launched a chain abstracted cohort Q4 of last year, and so a set of projects been building, and they are like a bunch of them are launching in January and February, and so I think what we'll see there is kind of as some of these applications launching and showcasing what's possible, like that kind of creates a flywheel, because people are like, oh, like I'm not limited anymore by one chain. I'm not limited anymore by only users of this chain. Again, hot, like literally with Hot, you can get users of all the different chains, right, use your app. With this Prime Brokerage, you can get users of Bitcoin into any app on any chain. We have Infinex is trying to bring users from Binance, like to get them to actually use on-chain stuff, and it's like they're building this amazing experience as well. So like we have all these different applications which are kind of feeling different, like either user personas or areas or use cases. And so I think as that like fully rolls out and showcases, like it will be pretty natural that people are like, now I understand what's possible and either build on top of this or use it.
You already mentioned that it somehow changes the business model of blockchain networks. So you're not selling like block space anymore, but rather this access also to the broader on-chain economy. How does this impact the value accrual for the Near token?
Yeah, so this core concept of chain signatures itself is like it's still effectively a transaction on Near. So in a way, it's you're still paying transaction fees. There's actually a additional fee for doing this chain signature comes in. So a lot of the same fee structure coming in. The whole token economics is probably like a whole podcast separately to talk about. But fundamentally, I think like this kind of layer one tokens are kind of a sovereign commodity that is used in different ways, right? And so what we do, we add more use cases for Near token, right, to be used in different places. We also, using this technology, actually launching what we call Omni bridge. So this would allow to bridge tokens that you have on Near to other chains. And it will create effectively like an Omni token across all chains that has single supply, and there's very easy way to send, for example, from Solana to Base token. Like you wouldn't even need to have a Near wallet to do that. And so all that, again, like to do that, you will send a transaction on Near, right? Like you wouldn't know about that, but that's what effectively will happen. And so all of these things are just effectively creating more use cases and more ways to use Near, but in a way where like it's not in the user's face, but instead kind of, the market makers, liquidity providers, the applications, the kind of professionals are paying that to really kind of satisfy users' demand.
It's time for another ad. From us. While you're enjoying the conversation, let me give you a sneak peek of what's coming up in this exciting 10-week digital asset season. We already kicked off the season with an exclusive event in Zurich, and you can check out the recap on our socials, and hosted our very first industry call. We will upload the recording on YouTube, so stay tuned. But you'll have more opportunities to meet our partners in person or digitally. We're bringing together the traditional finance scene with the on-chain economy in London on February 4th and in Frankfurt on February 19th. Plus, we've got another industry call that you can join on the 26th of February, where we'll dive deep into the hottest topics in institutional DeFi and digital assets. You can find the link to our event calendar in the show notes. And that's not all. Every week, we'll release a new podcast episode like today's with Near, alongside a detailed newsletter dropping every Friday. So stay tuned and let's get back to the podcast episode.
Since there are also plenty of folks from traditional finance listening to this episode, and there are two points I would like to touch upon. The first one is another interesting project that seems to leverage this technology is Libre, that has been providing access to different kinds of tokenized instruments across different networks. So this is interesting also, again, from a gateway perspective. I don't have to worry as an asset manager or as a professional investor, okay, how do I manage my wallet setup across different networks, and what about the custody piece and so on. But you can really interact through one single account. So this is interesting. But when we talk to them, they're also pretty interested in how can I connect blockchain networks with my own internal systems? So something that, for instance, Chainlink is heavily working on for many years. Do you also have that in mind, or is it really more as a cooperation down the road with Chainlink that incorporates also your technology, or do you also build out these capabilities to connect with these legacy systems in TradFi?
I think there is the way we connect to legacy system is a little bit different. So I mentioned intents and a kind of passed it over because I wanted to talk more in AI section, but intent is effectively a new way of describing kind of you want something done without prescribing how it should be done. So as the simplest example, I want to buy Bitcoin for USDC. Like, I don't really care how it's done. Like, is it bought on Bybit, on Binance, on some DEX? Like, just give it to me, right? But it also can be anything, it can be like generate 100,000 impressions on my website, or, get me a pizza. But it also can be that, like, hey, execute some action in, Deutsche Bank, or, borrow some capital from, UBS. And so you can actually, like, connect to all of this more traditional institutions by them effectively becoming participant in this global market of kind of intents. And so the interface we're imagining will effectively be the same, where we're actually working already with a couple projects which would allow you to swap to fiat and get it into your bank, right? You can similarly, you can work with brokerage and effectively go from Bitcoin to, Tesla stock in your brokerage account, right? Like, but the interface is the same. The way you interact with it is the same. So intents and chain signatures are kind of like, they're two different layers of stack, but they obviously use each other for like actual custody and management. But to me, intent is kind of a broader concept that really allows to kind of transform how we're making transactions, not just in Web3, but in Web2, because they effectively allow to have like almost a legal contract between parties that we kind of sign on, and then we settle that and that it gets executed. And like that execution can be as complex as, include force majeure provisions, include, what happens if something doesn't work, going to court if something doesn't work, etc. So that's kind of the system we're building. It's very useful, like for AI, it's effectively the kind of core concept of how we think AI agents will be transacting with each other, because they cannot, go to legal department and get like legal contract and billing and invoicing. They need that system, but they need it to be like programmatic and extremely fast. But this also works with connecting with all of the traditional finance and institutions to really, for them to provide their services directly into the Web3 environment.
And now shifting gears more into the crypto and AI topic, which is one of the main focuses and what people know about NIR. Before we go deeper into the specifics, I have to ask, because I read, I think it was Sam Altman who shared a blog article yesterday, that they were very close to figuring out how to reach superintelligence. And I just want to ask what do you think about that? And do you also think we're very close to it? Are you scared? All of these type of things.
I mean, I definitely think we're making amazing progress, right? One way or another, I've been like doing AI for past 20 years. And I think the rate of innovation is so much faster than it ever been. I do think we're going to get to a level where machines are able to kind of reason and understand information and knowledge like at the level or above level of human, and like we already see for some things this is already happening. You still need like context, you still need what other things, and I'm sure people will build like different kind of concepts out of that, but kind of the way I see this is like the age of effectively everything being automated is coming. Like the knowledge work is becoming effectively less and less of a kind of high-paid job, and more of like AI will do it. It's actually interesting because right now it's the knowledge work and the like low-level like repeated work is getting automated, and actually the things that are not getting automated are high dexterity physical work like plumbing and electricity. Like those things are really hard to automate. But I'm sure that will also come. And so my thesis is AI is effectively the last technology wave, because everything from there on will be built by AI itself. And again, I think philosophically what I'm against is a one or couple companies controlling that and effectively being the gatekeeper of this technology and deciding who is able to use it and how. So that's kind of where again user-owned AI coming from is like it should not be corporate owned. It should be owned by us individually. And if we all have kind of equal access, yes, some people will try to misuse it, but again, if we have majority of people using it and like kind of leveraging it for good, then overall we're going to benefit and we're going to catch people who are trying to misuse it. Versus a single party will be the watchdog over how everybody uses AI, and who's going to watch the watchdog and all the usual problems with that. You guys are not American, but like there's a Patriot Act, which was a very good example of like, hey, we're going to spy on everyone because for national security, and then it was very much misused in many ways.
Interesting. When I was going also through your X feed, I was reading a lot of like AI agents being the next apps, and in general, I mean, there is this narrative that all of a sudden everyone is talking about AI agents, and I'm really looking forward what's going to happen in 2025 with that topic. But at the same time, it feels like crypto talks more about AI than AI talks about the crypto space. Maybe you have a different opinion on that. This is just how it feels on that side. Where do you see the biggest overlaps in these two spaces? And why do you think AI conversations so often leave crypto out of the equation?
Yeah, I mean, there's few reasons for that. I think, first of all, a lot of AI is driven by researchers, and researchers are usually very kind of focused on the problem they're trying to solve. And especially it was like, hey, AGI is the goal, like, and we kind of all focused on that. So people, like, crypto is kind of crypto itself is like a multi-faceted, like you have economics and politics and kind of all of those pieces in technology coming together. And so I think part of it is just like it's kind of out of scope for a lot of people who are looking into this. Who are working on AI. And I think the other part is, like, again, for people who kind of thinks through, like, okay, what is the impact on society? Like, they understand, I mean, that's why, like, Meta is doing open source. Like, there needs to be some alternative to, closed source kind of push. But, again, it's crypto hasn't provided, like, a lot of real tangible results just yet for people to actually like, okay, well, I can use this, right? So again, and this is something we're trying to solve. And there is a few projects now in kind of this decentralized AI space that are truly addressing that and actually showing like, hey, you actually, if you do this, like if you have, overlay network, like prime intellect, you can train a model across, a distributed cluster, or Exo is doing really cool stuff. It's like, hey, you can use like a ton of consumer level MacBooks to do things, right? And so all of those projects are kind of like sitting on this intersection, and they are pulling in kind of traditional AI people into the like they're working with Hugging, like Prime Intellect works with Hugging Face, with like a few other folks who are providing them compute and kind of resources. So I think like it's happening, it's just not like it hasn't proven yet, and so it happens way slower. But again, I think like the other problem is because AI is driven by those big companies. Like for big company, I mean, crypto is an allergy, right? like there's an allergic reaction to crypto. So, but I think I expect some of this will to change as well as some of those more interesting things are coming out around AI agents and how to like coordinate them. So I think you mentioned AI agents. Why that is kind of becoming a narrative is because effectively if you imagine the interface changed right now, you're just talking with your computer, with your phone, and like you don't really need apps anymore. Like you don't need to open a thing and then find like you need Amazon. You're gonna say I'm gonna buy something. You don't need whatever Google. You don't need any of these apps. And your assistant will like predict what content you want to see, so you don't need to ask, right? You'll just fetch data directly from their databases. So you still need like, like somewhere logic and context of doing things, right? That's effectively the idea. And so agents are effectively just like bundling intelligence and context and tools to really enable to do things, right? So this can be, again, I want to order pizza, I want to find a taxi, like somewhere, it needs to know how to like scan the database, find the right providers, evaluate reputation, do also decision making. So those are agents, but then how do you actually coordinate and communicate with them, right? Like now you're into this, semi-trusted environment or untrusted environment with, some other people running these agents. How do you actually coordinate with them? How do you make sure they do the job right, etc.? And that's where all the things we've been building, right, in crypto come in handy because they actually enable things. And then the other thing that we've been working on has been, well, open source is really important. It enables kind of everyone to run their own models. But the problem is open source doesn't have a good business model, right? Meta right now just effectively, from the goodness of their heart, there are a few other startups who are open sourcing who effectively, run out of money because, they made whatever, $20 million, but they spent $200 million to train the models. And so how do you do something that's like open source enough, like it has all the permissionlessness, what went in, you can effectively, have privacy, you can run it on your own hardware, but also has a monetization model. And so again, this is where crypto and actually hardware comes in. And so we have this approach with effectively using TEs, trusted execution environments on hardware, and you can load model is encrypted. You can load model there, it gets decrypted, and you can use it. You can run it on your hardware. You can, use it in whatever way you want. It's end-to-end encrypted. Nobody can see what you're running with it. But every kind of interaction, you do a micropayment, right? So micropayments, kind of liveness, this kind of securing these enclaves, all of this is effectively crypto and blockchain solutions to solve a very much like a business problem that's open source, and kind of values problem as well with closed source solutions. So I think like we have some of the solutions coming to market now that actually gonna be offering services to AI industry, and I think we'll see that transition happening now, kind of within 2025.
So to sum it up for my non-technical brain, the case for like crypto rails for AI it really comes down to the permissionlessness of this. I call it like decentralized databases that are rich in state, and that somehow can serve as a coordination layer for these different models. So that is one aspect, and we build out the infrastructure that makes it like scalable and cheap and so on. And then the other aspect is that we need AI to be somehow open source and decentralized, as their impact on society is so huge, and crypto provides with like token incentives and so on a nice fit to really help these developers building open source software to monetize their work. Have I understood it like correctly, or would you add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to think about, like the way I think about blockchain, it's effectively good for identity, like global identity. It's good for payments. It's good for creating global markets and for coordination, right? And so all of these are needed for AI to be indeed kind of not controlled by a few parties, and as well, enabling kind of new business cases when you are actually able to use a lot of different kind of AIs yourself in the, trusting that the execution will happen and will happen correctly.
And what do you think about the current iterations of like on-chain AI agents? So we've seen like the first wave I would describe as some narrative about decentralized compute platforms like Render and so on. So that was the first like crypto AI intersection narrative wave, and now it moved on to the first like iteration of on-chain agents that are somehow also like glorified chatbots, like being able to tweet out token analysis. But it doesn't need too much fantasy to see like the speed of innovation and how these things can go. But I would be super interested in your take on like current projects like Virtuals or AI16Z and what you think about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're good, as you said, like prototypes for what it can be. I think right now the problem is like when you dug in like under the hood, right, everything is still not there, right? So it like crypto is very good at like fake it until you make it kind of state, which works really well and creates a lot of resources for people to actually spend time and work out all the details. For example, you mentioned the decentralized like GPU compute clouds. The challenge with those is that like if I'm using, for example, Amazon, I know who data goes to. There's the terms of service. I can sue them if they leak my data. If I use decentralized cloud, it goes to someone. And if they leak my data, which they can because they're getting literally my data and run it on their hardware, there's no even like anybody to sue, right? So there's like a lot of these problems which are solvable. That's why I described like the TE is effectively a solution to that. If you run everything inside secure enclave, you can now get privacy, so it solves that problem. But that's not what was launched before. And so like that's similarly right now, like I mean, I think obviously A16Z is moving with insane speed, right? People are just shipping like pull requests, etc. And so it can do a lot more stuff than it could like a week ago. So it's really hard to say like, it started as like, hey, this is indeed a cool thing that can shitpost on Twitter and, maybe swap some tokens, but indeed it can evolve really quickly. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of work with them and see how we can evolve. What I would say that, I mean, and one of the reasons it's like Web 2 and Web 3 right now are so in different places is when you talk to like Web 2 startups, like YC startups, they're all like, we're solving this specific problem. We have, this many, like already many clients, we're making money, and, this is how we're going to expand. And this is kind of, and so it's a very different approach, like so different that like indeed the mindsets don't mash even very well, right? So I think that's also a challenge where like it's really hard in crypto to actually solve a real problem. Like, hey, like how do you do like marketing, whatever, SEO optimization agent in crypto, right? Like that's not going to be cool. Like there's no token for that. So it's like just a useful thing. So, but I think like we'll see that things converging, and that's what I'm excited is like to bring those two sides together and actually like all of this really exciting technology that's been built by A16Z, Virtuals, and other folks on our side as well, and folks who are building like real use cases, but they need payments, they need coordination, they need privacy, they need all this tooling, and really enable them to work together. So AI16Z can do trading already. I think somebody's making a pull request for it to use even near intents to do like multi-chain trading. I think the challenge with trading is like if you just telling it like, hey, do this trade or whatever, execute this trade over time, etc., that's fine. As soon as you want like a fully automated hedge fund, effectively the problem is like hedge fund is not easy to build. It's not and especially if you have like open source hedge funds don't work because everybody will see what you're doing and trade against you. So there's like a little bit of a mismatch of like what people like, hey, I just want to make money and hey, agent that just goes and makes money, and it's like it's not easy to make money. It's not it's not like there's no predictable way to make money outside of treasury bills and I guess S&P 500. And so I think like we'll see a lot of that PvP where like people actually run some of these agents, and then other agents will actually steal their front run them and steal their money, etc. So I think that will be like an interesting, narrative and meta in crypto. But I'm really excited about like more real economy type things, and actually starting to see kind of true use cases that connect, kind of, doing like, literally, hey, edit this podcast, and you attach this video, and then like some AI agent goes, edits it and comes back to you as a version. And you're like, yes, I like this, and it charges you whatever, like $5, right? And so like that kind of is like, it's possible, and something we're working on, where again, like anything that you would want somebody else to do, you can just like, describe what you want, right? Maybe have a conversation with that agent, and then goes does it for you. So I think that is where, again, we actually show the utility of all those things, and it kind of connects all those pieces together.
Can you already share a little bit more details on like what's when, like timeline wise, and what more projects you are currently excited about when it comes to them building on the near blockchain to solve these problems?
Yeah, so we have a Near AI, which is going to be kind of releasing this approach of like how to find an agent to do something for you and then interact with it. We have also few examples of this already with a Bitte wallet, which is kind of AI-enabled wallet where you can like talk to your assistant, who can do staking, who can do trading, all those like. And it actually it's chain abstracted, so it works across other chains as well. We have, we obviously have like all the AI, Twitter agents. Like there's AI Santa was for the new year, which if you tell your like how were you this year, it will like give you a present on chain. There's you can confess your sins as well. So there's like all kinds of, everything from entertainment and kind of this fun things to like more real, Web3 stuff to, we're starting to see some of this Web2 use cases. I was mentioning like marketing and a few other use cases where we kind of connecting these pieces together.
Last question for this podcast. As we look toward this year, 2025, what is the big priority for Near? Can you share some hints on what's on the roadmap and maybe what excites you most about the future?
Yeah. So, because we have so many things happening, the roadmap is like, there's multiple pillars, and each pillar has its own roadmap. So, blockchain itself continues to innovate, right? We're working on kind of continuous scaling and hitting, supporting million transactions per second, kind of across a number of shards. That's really like, as we're ramping up all this usage and more AI agents and more applications and users, like you kind of need to have that backend to really scale. For chain signatures, we're kind of launching a new version, which is like way higher capacity, lower latency. We have Omni Bridge, as I mentioned, which again just kind of abstracts out, just creates like very easy way to move assets around. And on top of that, so Intent's been launching like a network a week. They're probably going to continue that, and so enabling fiat, enabling kind of other use cases there. And finally, on the AI side, as I mentioned, like kind of creating economy between agents, creating these transactions, connecting them, having more autonomous agents, which are indeed running in TE and like actually verified. Again, the problem is all the current agents are just running on somebody's machine. You can do Control-C and stop it. So again, there's infrastructure to run agent in such a way that it cannot be stopped. It's it's all encrypted. It's all maintained within these containers, and smart contracts is how it interacts with the world. So I think like there's a lot of this like pieces, but kind of broader vision. If we abstract from this like specific things, is just actually see some of those real use cases and real examples of kind of AI and blockchain working together, bringing value to traditional users, as well as kind of continue expanding this idea of chain abstraction, where like users don't need to think about blockchains ideally, and just using every application everywhere.
Illia, thank you very much. That was a very, very insightful conversation. If people want to reach out to you, get in touch with you, what's the best source? Is it X? Is it LinkedIn? Where can they reach you?
X is the best, yeah. So just DM me on X. Perfect.
Then thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day in Lisbon and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.